My name is Margaret Adele. As I film this, it is 10 p.m. on December 31st, 2022, and when the clock hits midnight, not only will it be the new year, but I will be starting a 24-hour readathon. I really like the idea of starting the year with a 24-hour readathon right out of the gate. It also helps that January 1st is always going to be a day I get off work, and there's a couple different reasons for it. My TBR challenge is back in place, so if I want to get more books, I gotta start reading more books. I might not include the review requests that I've gotten just because I got a surge of interest in December that I hadn't been accounting for and I hadn't reviewed. So I might actually let my review list break 15, which is a rule I don't usually break, but I really want to get back into reviewing in a big way. And also, I really get paranoid at the beginning of the year when my Goodreads challenge resets back to 0 and you're suddenly at the 0% of the way towards your goal. So this way, I can settle into having some books under my belt and tackle the 500 pagers that I have on my TBR for my Roll for TBR game this month with less guilt, knowing that I'm already a little bit ahead. So at midnight, I am not staying up through the night. I have tried that before, and it didn't leave me feeling too physically tired, but it left my brain feeling extra stressed because I guess my brain just needs the downtime. And also, this is my last day of break, so I can't screw up my sleep schedule now. I've done a really good job of not screwing it up. So we are going to instead read the shortest book I have, I think, on my entire TBR right now, and get that read, and then immediately go to bed. We'll have a full night's sleep, and then wake up and jump into it tomorrow. But I am really interested in this. So for my Midnight on 2023 read, I am reading Sundog by Melissa Conway. This is a local artist in my area, and the concept of this is so interesting because it is a poetry collection, and each poem was written once a month for 3 years, I believe. It starts January of 2018, following to December of 2020. And if I remember correctly, I believe the author said when I bought this from her that it has a lot to do with suicide ideation and some other trigger warning stuff, although that's pretty standard for poetry collections. However, what I'm the most interested in is that first, it gives poetry this chronology, and then it tells it non-linearly. For example, the poems aren't told in, 2018, 2019, 2020. They're told by month. So it goes January of 2018, 2019, 2020, February of 2018, 2019, 2020. And I really like that concept of here's what this month looked like in comparison between every year. And I also really do like the artworks that I see in here. There's some really cool modern art type stuff. Not that I usually understand modern art at all, but it's got some good hippie vibes. I'm into it. So this is what we're going to jump off with. Maybe it'll give me good vibes for the entire year. Who knows? But I will check in with you again when midnight has struck. It is midnight. We have had our toast. We have had our midnight kiss. And I am going to drink the rest of my sparkling grape juice as I start reading Sundog. I have finished Sundog by Melissa Conway. I can't tell if I didn't get some of the poems because I'm tired or because they were very galaxy brained and I was never going to get them. But it was definitely like, okay, this one I get, this one makes sense. And then it'd be like, next one would be like, those are words, cool looking words. And I'm really happy that I read this. I think I might come back to it. There are a couple that are worth the reread. But in general, this is my first book of the new year. I can't even update my Goodreads yet because they're not even switching to the 2023 challenge for another hour. So we're going to leave this here. This also doesn't have a cover on Goodreads, which is going to bug me that my first book of the year doesn't have a cover, but it's fine. It's fine. We'll make it work. I might be using this for a Pop Sugar prompt. I'm not sure. Pop Sugar has some slightly weird prompts this year, but overall, I need to go to bed. I'm tired, and when I wake up in the morning and get around to it, I will explain some of the other books that I'm hoping to get to over the course of this. But right now, I need to go to bed. Merry New Year, everyone. Good morning. I did get a decent night's sleep, still woke up about around the same time, so that's good. And first things first, I'm going to be tackling Games with the Orc by Catherine Moon. This is a monster romance where a woman hires an orc sex worker and feelings begin to happen. I really love this author. This is on my January TBR, and I'm hoping that I can fit this in maybe just in this morning. Maybe I can read it before lunch. We'll see. We actually are going to go out to breakfast like we usually do. Maybe thrift store shopping. I'm not sure. But this is an ebook, so I'll read it on my phone while we're out and about. That's fine. In fact, most of the books I have picked out for today or for possibly today are ebooks. So I will probably just be on my phone a lot, which actually that is kind of new for me. I'm not usually like that. But regardless, I will check in with you when I've actually read a little bit of the book. So I have about 100 pages read of Games with the Orc, and it's definitely reminding me of the Cambric Creek series by C.M. Nascosta, in that it's a world where quote-unquote monsters are just an accepted part of like everyday life. Like they're waiters, you can see them in the grocery store, like that kind of stuff. And I do like that concept. I wish more was done with it. I still feel like it's almost too sweet and too cute at times. There's very little tension in this story so far, but it's all about Sunny, who is proposed to by her boyfriend and realizes she doesn't want to marry him. And I did like that the ex wasn't an asshole. Just wasn't what she wanted. That was nice. And she decides to go to this Monster Smash agency, a sex working agency, and gets assigned this orc for 5 days of fun. And basically the orc is nervous because she's orc bait, apparently. Just her desires match up perfectly with, I guess, natural orc tendencies. And he's worried because if he gets the mating urge, like that's it. He can't be a sex worker anymore. And this is something that Catherine Moon has done before in previous books, where she'll have sex workers as the protagonists. Both the protagonists of the first two books in the Tempting Monster series are sex workers to a certain extent. But once they find their person or persons, they stop, like always. I would like to see her branch out and do how this would work while being in a relationship, because people do that kind of work while in relationships. And I'm pretty sure that this one, once the mating happens, the sex work ends, and it's a little bit frustrating. However, it is doing a pretty good job of showing competent and safe BDSM stuff. The one thing I would say is there's a part where he's rewarding her or like praising her for not using the safe word, which is not directly problematic, but is like coming up on the edge. Like using or not using the safe word is no failing or success. It's just for the purpose of safety. But beyond that, it's nice. There's next to no tension aside from Kel. I do like that we get his point of view, but aside from the mating thing, there's nothing in the way of an actual plot, which is also what the author had to struggle with at book 1 of Tempting Monsters. So maybe this is just a regular thing for her. I don't know. She definitely focuses more on the sex scenes than the plot. But I am enjoying this. However, I'm going to have to pick something else out. I had some other possible romances on my TBR for this, but this is so devoid of tension and full of sex scenes that I might need to intercut it with something else just for a palate cleanser. But for right now, I think I'm actually going to go maybe take a quick walk to kind of clear my head, because I'm still kind of hazy. And I can definitely finish this today. Definitely at least one other book, maybe 2 other books. I would love to finish 4 because that would open me up 2 more slots for other books. And there's 2 review books that I want to say yes to that I got while I was technically closed. So we'll see how it works, how much I need to push myself today and get that taken care of. All right, I have finished Games with the Orc by Catherine Moon, and I was pleasantly surprised by the ending. I was afraid that it was going to be one of those things where it's like, we're mates, everything's fine now, but like they became mates during 5 days of what was technically sex work in a cabin, and I was like, not too sure about that, boyo. But thankfully, there was a lot of I guess you could call it falling action after the fact, once they knew they were mates, that like they were still figuring things out. And you had the requisite pining section, but it wasn't based on such a stupid miscommunication, so I liked that part. All in all, very sweet, very different from her other current monster romance series, because that series is like dark and twisted, but this one was very fluffy. So many sex scenes, just lost count of the number of sex scenes. It was kind of funny. So I'm actually gaining a little bit of a headache, so I'm going to take a shower and hope to kind of get my head back to where it needs to be. And I think the next book I'm going to read is going to be one of the mid-grades that I have, and I'm thinking The Last Kids on Earth and The Zombie Parade by Max Brallier. I actually found this series through work. We did the first book as a read aloud in the class, and then we watched the Netflix show. Technically, I'm going ahead because we're going to start reading this one. The kids love it, and if you've ever worked with like 8 to 12-year-olds, it is so hard these days to find child appropriate media that they get excited for, instead of video games about serial killers. So I'm really excited to read this one, and because it's a mid-grade and it has these awesome illustrations in it, it could be a fairly quick read, even despite the fact that it's a little bit chunkier, and it is a series, so I will be continuing a series with that. So that would be the goal. The goal would be to finish this and then maybe read another book tonight. I have officially read 2, so I think I might go to the indie review requests and pick one to accept and have that fill that slot. And then once, hopefully, I can read this one and another one, I can accept the other one that I have my eye on particularly. And I'm just basically going to have to do that way, where I read books, use the slots to accept review books, and then once I am sure that I have all of the review books accepted that I want out of my email inbox right now, then I'll open for general review requests. I think that'll work. I already told myself I was going to focus a lot on reviews in the month of January. I'm not doing that today because, as a general rule, I don't focus on reviews during 24-hour readathons, just because I don't want to feel rushed through them and have that affect my star rating. But next up, shower, maybe make a snack. I'm hungry, and get some good middle grade zombie reading done. So it has not even been 40 minutes and I am already halfway through this book. It really is a quick read. Obviously, it's meant for younger kids, but I forgot how there was emotions beneath the surface, because obviously it's monsters and zombie fights and a lot of pop culture references, but the protagonist was a foster kid before the end of the world, and it delves into how he's actually finding his footing in the end of the world, because the world as it wasn't doing him any favors, and how he's terrified to lose this found family that he has, this group of friends, because he's not used to having it. Oh, and also, I love this part. One of the Pop Sugar challenges is to read a book with a map in it, and this has a map. So that counts for one of my Pop Sugar prompts. Love that for me. So that's really nice. but in general, it's got a lot of heart, a lot more than I remember. There are a lot of words in it that are purposefully impossible to pronounce, like that are supposed to be like this other ancient language, so it's weird symbols and it's kind of fun. It's just a good time. I'm enjoying it, and I will definitely get it finished here soon. And another book is done, and this one felt more like adult than the previous one, or at least like deeper, like it dealt with deeper stuff. And I actually did watch part of the Netflix episode that this book is based on, and they added in a whole bunch of plot lines that weren't in here. But that makes sense. This book got broken up into several episodes. So I have another book read and a headache. Not because of all the reading, because I accidentally skipped lunch. Not smart on my part, but this one was cute. I finished it. I will eventually have to continue with the series. I don't own the next one yet. And I might wait for the class to catch up. I don't know. But that's book number 3. One more, and I will have another slot open on my TBR challenge. But first, I need to go chill out, maybe get food, and get this headache gone. A very belated check-in here. I had dinner, I got my stuff prepped for the work week, and then I was like, oh, I'll just try. Like, I'll just see. I'm pretty sure I want to read this book next, and then I ended up reading like nearly 100 pages in one sitting. So, I am currently reading The Whisper of Silenced Voices by C.J. Archer. This is the 3rd in the After the Rift series. This is all about a palace that sprang up out of nowhere, and no one remembers it being built. And the local physician's daughter ends up getting an invite to the palace through her father and starts making friends and uncovering secrets of what's going on in the walls. And I can't say more than that because there's been a lot of reveals so far over the series, but it's really a slow burn mystery. Every book, there's a little bit more added on, and a lot more palace intrigue and all that kind of stuff. And I like that it's shown through the eyes of the local village doctor's daughter, as opposed to like, a noblewoman. And there's also a slow burn romance that I love. This is one of those books where I think I got the original off BookBub randomly, and I read it only because it fulfilled a prompt in a readathon, and I was like, oh no, wait, this is really good. So it's kind of moved up on my series to emphasize list, and it's nice because it's finished, so I could theoretically finish this whole series this year. But I am really enjoying it. And it is just now like 7 o'clock, which means, if I really buckle down and read, I could definitely get this finished tonight, and I will have finished 4 books in a day, which is what I wanted to do. So, looking really well. I will check in with you again either when something else big happens in the story or I finished it. I don't know. I did it. I finished the other book. A giant left turn at the very end. A big plot point that I was not expecting that makes the next book chaos. But I have a headache, so I can't think through details right now. However, I am happy to find out that this book also has a map. So I'm probably going to use this for the map prompt and use the Last Kids on Earth for the pet character prompt, which is awesome. First day of the year, and I've already read 4 books, 3 of which count for Pop Sugar. And I opened myself 2 new slots in my challenge, which is exactly what I need to accept those review books. So all in all, doing well. Now I'm back to work tomorrow. A little bit nervous about that. The first few days after a break can be tricky, but we'll make it work. I might come back with a wrap up tomorrow. But for right now, headache. Gonna go take care of that. All right, it is the next day. I am rested. No headache. Time for a wrap up. First up, we had Sundog by Melissa Conway, the poetry collection. Looking back, I do wish there had been a little bit more references to everything going on in 2020. There's only really 1 or 2 poems that seem to reference BLM or political justice type stuff, but I would have liked to see more of the poet's take on things like quarantine and a pandemic, but overall, I really liked that one. Next up, we had Games with the Orc by Catherine Moon. The more I think about it, the more excited I am for the next one, because I realized that part of the issue was there was kind of a moment in the second third, which is always the hardest, that really lagged because it was just like sex scene after sex scene with very little in the way of furthering the relationship, and in a weird way it was like all the sex scene happened first and then the relationship got furthered at the end. I did like the end. I did like that the author didn't just let it be like, oh, they're mates, it's fine, moving on. Like, no, they actually had to like work through things. And I liked the hints at the next book. It's very easy once you start reading these romance books to find out who the next protagonist is going to be. But also, I know from experience with this author that it might take them a second to lock in. Like, the first book is the really solid premise, but it isn't until maybe the next book where they really unlock what that premise could be. So moving forward, I am excited to see what the next story would be, and hopefully a little bit more even on the pacing, because the Tempting Monsters trilogy had that same issue. First book's pacing for sex scenes versus plot was awful, but the second one was a ton better. So I'm hoping she can do the same with this one. And then next up we had The Last Kids on Earth by Max Brallier. And this one was adorable, a lot of heart, a lot more serious than I expected it to be. Loved the twist. That was not in the part of the Netflix show that I watched, but it definitely feels like, okay, where are they going to go from here? Because that was a big thing that they battled in this one, like a really big thing. So I am interested to see how it works moving forward, but I am really, really liking the relationship dynamics between this found family. I am really liking that they are kind of like growing out characters, like the big bulking bully is like really preoccupied with gardening. I love that. And I'm excited to continue reading it, especially because, again, it is such a quick read series for me, you know, because it's mid-grade. And last, of course, we have The Whisper of Silenced Voices by C.J. Archer. This one, again, that ending, left turn, and obviously I'm not going to say what it is. I can't even tell you how this book began, but the more I thought about it, I realized there's something quite strange in this series, and that is the fact that the protagonist is constantly targeted by, like, all the antagonists. Like, she, by the nature of who she is in this story, is fundamentally, like, a side character trying to figure out someone else's mystery, but for some reason, she just cannot stop being targeted by everybody, and the more I think about it, it is a little too protagonist-y for me, because it's like literally every single antagonist specifically antagonizes her repeatedly. So, I might actually have to bump down a star rating because I can't get that thought out of my head, but I do still like the mystery, and with the giant left turn of that ending, I do want to see where it's going to go next, because I genuinely have no idea how the author's going to come back from that and honestly continue the mystery. So really loving that. I will definitely be continuing with that series at some point. I do not own any of the next books in the series yet, so that would be a use of a slot, and I have not asked for the second review book yet. I'm kind of waiting on some people to nudge me first, just to see who among the indie authors is really looking for a review. But I'm being greedy, or rather I'm being cautious, hoarding all of my slots until I know there's a book I really, really want to put there, because I really like sticking to the TBR challenge. However, I am almost halfway through another book as I read this. The energized feeling has continued, which it should. I should not be lagging the second day of the year. So we'll see how it continues when work returns to full normal with all the kids there and all the behaviors. We'll see then. But for right now, I'm feeling pretty good about it. So thank you so much for watching. I hope the beginning of your year has gone well so far. I know that there's been whole talk last year about, you know, reading so many and the pressure it puts. I honestly don't care how much other people read. Yes, I read 4 books in a day right off the bat. I spent an entire day and gave myself a headache for it. I'm not going to be reading that high of an amount a day until the next time I decide to do a 24-hour readathon, which could be in 6 months. It could be not for the rest of the year. I don't know. Regardless, let me know what your first read of the year is or was. How's it going? I genuinely hope that everyone feels energized going into this year. I will try to send some of my energy through the screen to you poof, I don't know. Thank you so much for watching. And with nothing else to say, I hope you have a wonderful day and a marvelous tomorrow.